The wind howled across the silver plains of the colony planet. The night was cold, sharper than the edge of broken glass. Inside a small dome house, soft lights flickered, and the hum of heaters filled the air. Most families were asleep, safe under the protection shields, but one small girl was still awake, her curious eyes wide open. Her name was Lila, only 6 years old. She had a habit of asking too many questions, and sometimes she liked to sneak out just to see the stars. Her mother always said, "Lila, the night is dangerous. Stay inside." But Lila loved the way the snow sparkled under the twin moons. Like tiny diamonds scattered across the world that night, she saw something strange outside her window, a faint blue light moving slowly between the white hills. It wasn't a patrol drone or a miner's vehicle. It flickered like a heartbeat, fast, weak, and fading. Lila's chest filled with curiosity, and maybe a little fear. She slipped on her boots, wrapped her blanket around her shoulders, and pressed the door panel open. The cold air hit her face like needles. Her small footprint sank deep into the snow as she followed the light. The silence was heavy. No wind, no sound, only her heartbeat. The light grew dimmer with every step, and then it vanished completely. Lila stopped, breathing hard, ready to turn back. Then she heard it, a soft whimper. It sounded like a baby crying, but different, strange, musical. She pushed through the snow and gasped. Lying half buried in the frost was a small alien child. No older than her, its skin shimmered faint blue. Its eyes half closed, it was freezing, trembling so weakly it could barely move. Lila knelt beside it, her heart pounding. She had seen aliens before, on holoscreens, during school lessons, but never in real life. Her colony was deep in the outer sector, far from the galactic cities, and she remembered the rule. Humans are forbidden to help unauthorized alien species. Her teacher had said those words clearly. The Galactic Law was strict, and breaking it could bring punishment even to a child's family. But as she looked down at the little being, she didn't see an alien. She saw someone who was dying, someone scared and alone. The child's small hand reached toward her weakly. Fingers trembling, Lila didn't think, she just acted. She took off her blanket and wrapped it around the creature. Pulling it close, the alien's skin was icy cold, like touching frozen glass. Hey, it's okay," she whispered softly, her breath misting in the air. The alien opened its eyes for a moment, glowing faintly like two tiny stars. It tried to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, a strange silver bracelet on its arm blinked weakly, sending a soft pulse into the night. Lila didn't understand it, but it scared her a little. She looked around. The night was too quiet now. Her instincts told her someone might come. She lifted the alien carefully, struggling under the weight, and started walking home. Each step felt heavier than the last. The snow kept falling, covering their footprints, hiding their trail. When she reached the dome door, her hands were shaking from the cold. The security sensor scanned her and beeped. "Unauthorized object detected," the voice said flatly. Lila bit her lip, whispering, "Please, let me in." The door slid open after a short pause. Maybe the system recognized her plea as human distress. Inside, the warmth returned slowly. She placed the alien on a small bed near the heater. Steam rose from its clothes as the ice melted away. It shivered violently, and Lila panicked, running to get water and a blanket. She remembered her mother's medical kit. She grabbed it, not knowing what to do but trying anyway. Her small fingers pressed random buttons on the health scanner. Beeping sounds filled the room. "Showing unreadable alien data. What are you?" she whispered softly, brushing snow off its hair. The alien's breathing was shallow, and its chest moved slowly. Lila's eyes filled with tears. She didn't understand why the galaxy had rules that would let someone die like this. She only knew one thing. She couldn't just stand and watch. Then from the ceiling, a robotic voice spoke. It was Nova, the home AI assistant. "Lila," it said calmly. "There is a foreign life form in your house." Lila froze, staring up. "Do you wish to report it to the Galactic Patrol?" Nova asked. Lila shook her head quickly. No reporting," she whispered. "Then what do you wish to do?" Nova asked again. Lila looked at the alien child, still breathing weakly. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "I'm going to save it," she said. The AI paused, as if confused by her decision. "The Galactic Law forbids human aid to restricted species," it warned. Lila's small eyes hardened. Something fierce burned behind her fear. Then the law is wrong, she said quietly. Outside the wind howled louder, carrying the sound of distant engines. Something in the sky moved, metallic shadows flashing under the moons. But Lila didn't look away. She sat beside the alien child, holding its cold hand tight. Her heart was small, but her courage was vast. And without knowing it that night, a 6-year-old human girl had just broken galactic law and started a story that would echo across the stars. The night outside was still and cold, but inside the dome the air was heavy with worry. Lila sat beside the small alien, wrapping another blanket around it. Its skin had turned pale blue, its breath shallow, its chest rising weakly with each gasp every few seconds. Its silver bracelet flickered like a dying star. The sound of the heater hummed softly, but it wasn't enough to bring real warmth. Lila whispered, "Please stay alive, I'll help you." "I promise." The alien didn't answer, only made a faint sound, like a note from a broken flute. She looked at the health scanner again, but it showed strange symbols she couldn't read. It wasn't made for alien biology, still. She remembered something from her mother's old stories. How humans once built machines to help people breathe. They were called artificial lungs, maybe she could build one too. Her small hands trembled as she opened the medical box. Inside were pieces of equipment, air filters, microtubes, and old repair tools. Her mother used them to fix drones and robots. Lila had often watched her work, curious about how things lived, both machines and people, now that curiosity became courage. She whispered to herself, "If I can fix a drone, maybe I can fix a friend." Suddenly, Nova's voice echoed from the ceiling, calm but firm. "Lila, I have detected the life form's body temperature dropping dangerously." "I know," she whispered back. "I'm trying to help." "Helping this creature is against Galactic Code 77, Nova warned. "If the patrol finds out, your family could be punished." Lila frowned and said softly, "Then they won't find out." Nova paused for a moment, processing her words. It almost sounded like the AI sighed. "You are just a child, Lila." She looked up at the ceiling and said, "Then a child will save it." She moved quickly now, pulling tools from shelves, old wires, bits of plastic, and an oxygen patch from her mother's workbench. Her fingers were small, but she worked with focus, connecting pieces together. The alien made another weak sound, and its small hand twitched. Lila ran to it, holding its hand. "I'm here," she whispered. It opened its eyes for a moment, deep silver, like liquid metal, then closed them again. She could see its chest moving slower each second. Nova scanned again, its blue light circling the ceiling. "Warning, heart rate critical," it said. Lila bit her lip, thinking fast. Her eyes moved to the air recycler on the wall, a small machine that cleaned the dome's oxygen. She rushed to it, unscrewing the back panel, her hands shaking. Wires sparked slightly as she pulled out a glowing filter core. Nova's voice rose. "Lila, that is dangerous." "I don't care," she snapped. "I need it." She dragged the filter core to the table and attached it to a mask made from an old drone part. Then she used a clear tube to connect it to the alien's mouth. It looked messy, strange, but maybe it could work. Nova scanned again. "This configuration is unstable," Lila whispered. "Please, just let it run." There was a pause. Then Nova said quietly, "Permission granted." For the first time, the AI broke a rule. The mask hissed softly, releasing warm air into the alien's lungs. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien's chest rose slightly in one slow breath. Then another, Lila gasped, tears filling her eyes. "It's working," she whispered. The silver bracelet on the alien's wrist flickered brighter. As if it felt her hope, Nova's sensors beeped softly. Vital signs stabilizing. Temporarily. Lila smiled faintly. "That's enough for now." But peace didn't last long. Outside, a low hum vibrated through the dome walls. Lila froze, her heart pounding. Nova's sensors flashed red. "Incoming patrol units detected within 1 kilometer radius." Her stomach tightened. "They can't see him," she whispered. She grabbed the alien's small body and carried it to the basement. The cold metal stairs echoing under her steps. The basement was dark, filled with old mining tools and storage crates. She hid the alien inside a broken robot shell, leaving the air tube running carefully through the side. The soft hum of the machine blended with the background noise. "Stay quiet," she whispered, brushing its forehead gently. The alien's skin had warmed a little, glowing faintly under the emergency light. Then came a knock, sharp and mechanical. Nova spoke softly. Lila. There are 2 galactic officers at the door. Her heart raced. Her hands shaking, she ran upstairs, trying to act normal. The knock came again, louder this time. Her mother's sleepy voice came from the hallway. Who's visiting at this hour? Before Lila could answer, the front door slid open automatically. 2 tall figures stepped in. Galactic patrol officers, armored and cold. One of them spoke, his voice deep and echoing through his helmet. Routine scan, ma'am. We detected an unauthorized signal from this dome. Lila's eyes widened. They must have picked up the alien's bracelet signal. She stood beside her mother, pretending to yawn. Her small hands clenched behind her back. The officers looked around, scanning with glowing devices. A faint beep came from the floor above the basement. Lila felt her throat tighten. One officer looked suspiciously toward the stairs, but just then she stumbled forward, spilling her cup of hot cocoa onto his armor. Oh no, I'm sorry, she cried, pretending to panic. The officer stepped back, irritated, wiping it off. Careful, child, he said sharply. Her mother apologized quickly. She's only a kid. The officer scanned one last time, then turned to leave as the door closed. Lila's knees went weak. She ran downstairs to the basement. The alien was still breathing, the air tube working, the bracelet dim but steady. She knelt beside it and whispered, "We did it." Nova's voice came softly. "Lila, the signal from the bracelet. It just activated again." Her eyes widened. The silver light blinked 3 times, and somewhere far above the planet, something answered. Morning came slowly over the frozen colony. The sky pale and soft like silver dust. Snowflakes drifted through the air as Lila stood by the window, her heart still racing from the night before down in the basement. The alien child, Kyo, lay hidden inside the shell of a broken robot. Its breathing had steadied thanks to the crude machine Lila had built, but its bracelet still glowed faintly, pulsing like a quiet alarm. Lila hadn't slept. Her mother thought she was tired from the cold, but she didn't know the truth. No one could know, not even for a second. Because if the Galactic Patrol discovered the alien, it wouldn't just mean trouble, it would mean execution. Not for the alien, but for her entire family. Nova, the house AI, floated a small projection above the kitchen table. "Lila," it said softly. "The patrol units have expanded their search zone to this sector." Her hands trembled as she poured warm water into a cup. "They're looking for him, aren't they?" she whispered. "Yes," Nova replied. The signal from the alien's bracelet was detected by an orbital scan. Lila's lips tightened. "Then I have to keep him hidden." The AI hesitated, its voice quieter now. "Lila, this is no longer a small risk." "I know," she said, "but I won't let him die." Just then, the door alarm buzzed, a loud, sharp sound that froze the air. Her mother turned from the counter. Surprised, who could that be this early? Before Lila could answer, the door slid open automatically. 2 Galactic Patrol officers stepped in, their silver armor gleaming under the dome lights. Each carried a scanning device, its red light sweeping slowly across the room. "Good morning, citizens," one of them said, his voice cold and robotic. "We are conducting a life-form scan due to an unauthorized distress signal detected nearby." Her mother frowned. "Distress signal? We haven't seen anything unusual." Lila stood still, her small fingers clenched tightly around her cup. The officer's visor flickered as his scanner beeped. For a moment, it pointed directly toward the floor, the basement. "Ma'am," said the second officer, "may we check your lower levels?" Lila's mother looked confused. "Is that really necessary?" "It's procedure," he replied firmly. Lila's heart began to pound, loud enough that she thought they could hear it. She tried to breathe quietly. Thinking fast before they could move, Lila stumbled forward, spilling her hot cocoa across the floor. It splashed across the officer's boots and the scanner. "Oh no, I'm sorry," she cried, her voice trembling. The officer stepped back quickly. Shaking his leg, his scanner beeped again. Glitching for a second, her mother rushed over, apologizing, trying to clean up the mess. "It's just a child," she said nervously. "She didn't mean to." The officer sighed, annoyed. "Be careful next time." Human, the scanner's red light faded, no longer detecting the faint signal from below. Lila's distraction had worked, for now, but then a low hum vibrated through the air. Nova's voice spoke quietly in Lila's ear implant. "Warning. External drone approaching the dome." She glanced at the window. A dark shadow moved through the snow, scanning beams cutting across the colony. Her breath caught. "They're not leaving," she whispered. The officers finished their search and stepped outside. But instead of leaving, they began talking near the patrol vehicle. Lila pressed her face against the cold glass. Trying to hear, she couldn't make out the words. But she saw one of them lift a communicator. Then she heard Nova whisper urgently, "They've detected a faint biosignature from underground." Her eyes widened. "No," she breathed. "Lila, if they enter the basement—" "They will find him," Nova warned. She looked toward the stairs, thinking fast. Her heart told her what her brain couldn't. She had to move Keo. Now she ran down the steps silently, the hum of the heating pipes masking her footsteps. Keo's small body was still inside the robot shell, his face pale but calm. "Wake up," she whispered softly. "We have to go." His eyes fluttered weakly open, reflecting the golden heater light. Lila pulled off the air tube and covered him with a blanket. Her hands shook as she lifted him. He was lighter than she expected, fragile like glass. The sound of metal boots echoed above. The officers had re-entered the house. Her mother's voice was nervous. "You already scanned everything." A deep voice interrupted. "We detected residual alien bioenergy, ma'am." Lila froze mid-step. Clutching Keo close, Nova whispered, "They are heading toward the basement door." She looked around desperately, and then she saw it. The old maintenance hatch. Leading to the air tunnels, her mother had told her never to go there. But now she had no choice. She opened the hatch quietly, the rusty hinges creaking faintly. Snow dust blew in through the vent. Cold and sharp, she crawled inside, holding Keo close to her chest. The tunnel was dark and narrow, filled with frost behind her. She heard the basement door slide open. A flashlight beam cut across the room, landing on the robot shell. One officer muttered, "Nothing alive here." "Just scrap metal." The other frowned. "Still, keep searching." Lila crawled deeper into the tunnel, her breath fogging in the air. Keo's bracelet glowed again. Faint but steady, she whispered, "Please." "Not now." The light dimmed, as if it hurt her finally after what felt like hours. She reached the end of the tunnel, a small vent opening behind the colony's energy station. She pushed it open and stepped out into the snow, gasping for air. The world outside was bright now. The twin suns rising over the horizon. Lila looked down at Keo. His eyes were open. Watching her for the first time, he spoke. His voice weak but clear. "Why? You help?" She smiled softly, tears in her eyes. "Because no one else would." He blinked slowly, understanding in his silver eyes. But before they could rest, Nova's voice whispered through her ear again. "Lila." They found the signal source. She turned, seeing 3 patrol drones flying toward them, their red lights flashing. The chase had just begun. Snow burst around Lila as she ran through the icy plains, her breath fogging the air like smoke. Her small boots sank deep into the powder, but she didn't stop, not even for a second. Behind her, the sound of engines grew louder, cold mechanical drones sweeping across the sky. Their red lights blinked in rhythm, scanning the ground for life signs. Each pulse of light felt like a heartbeat of fear. In her arms, the alien child Keo was shivering. His skin glowed faintly blue under the rising twin suns. The artificial lungs she had built still hissed softly, helping him breathe. Lila's hands were numb, her arms trembling, but she held him close. She whispered through chattering teeth, "Hold on. Just a little more." The open plains stretched endlessly, white and quiet. Ahead was a line of metal structures, the old power fields. Abandoned after the war, she headed there, hoping to hide among the ruins. As she reached the broken towers, she ducked behind a fallen beam, panting hard. The drones flew overhead, their red beams slicing through the fog. Lila held her breath, pressing Keo close to her chest. One of the drones stopped midair, its sensors flickering. A high-pitched hum filled the silence. It was locking onto something. Lila's heart raced, but then suddenly, Keo's silver bracelet blinked rapidly, faster and faster. A beam of soft blue light shot into the sky. Disappearing among the clouds, Lila gasped, "What are you doing?" Keo's eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly. "Calling. Home," he whispered. The sky above shimmered faintly, as if answering his call far beyond the clouds. Signals bounced between satellites. Something ancient and powerful had heard. Nova's voice crackled in Lila's earpiece, faint through static. "Lila, I am tracking the signal. It has reached orbital networks. This is not good. What does that mean? She whispered. It means the galactic enforcers will come, Nova replied. Lila's stomach dropped. Then we have to move. She picked Keo up again, heading toward an old communications bunker nearby. Its door was rusted but half open, creaking as she pushed it. Inside, the air was stale and filled with dust. Old wires hung from the ceiling like vines, screens long dead, but there was shelter here. At least for a while, she laid Keo on a broken chair, wrapping him in her blanket. His silver eyes looked dull, his energy fading. The artificial lungs sputtered weakly, losing power. Lila looked around desperately for anything she could use. A flickering light caught her eye, an old fusion battery half buried under metal parts. She crawled over and wiped the dust off it, her small hand shaking. If I can fix this, I can power the lung, she whispered. Her mind replayed everything her mother had taught her: how to repair drones, how to reconnect damaged cells. She grabbed a wire and her little toolkit. Working as fast as she could, sparks flew as she connected the wires. Nova spoke softly in her ear. You are using the wrong polarity. Lila frowned. Then tell me the right one. Nova paused, then said quietly, left to positive, right to core. She switched the wires, a small spark, then a steady hum. The light turned green, and the machine came alive again. She hurried to Keo, connecting the power line to the air mask. The lung hissed once more, warm air filling the alien's chest. He gasped weakly, then sighed, his body relaxing. Lila smiled through tears. You're okay, she whispered. Keo blinked slowly, his voice soft and tired. Why you? Help? Lila's voice trembled. Because no one else would. Because you're just a kid like me. He looked at her, confused. Kid? She nodded. Small human with big heart. Keo smiled faintly, then pointed upward. Stars. Home. Lila looked up through the broken roof, the twin moons fading behind morning light. She felt a strange calm, until the ground began to shake. The sound was distant at first, then deep and thunderous. She ran to the doorway and looked up. The clouds were burning orange. Through them, massive ships descended slowly, dark and sharp like blades. Nova's voice broke through the static. Lila, multiple enforcer vessels detected. They are landing near your coordinates. Her breath hitched. They found us. Yes, Nova said grimly. And they are not coming to ask questions. She ran back to Keo, panic in her chest. The alien tried to stand, but he was too weak. Lila helped him up, pulling his arm around her shoulders. Outside, the wind howled again, snow swirling violently. The enforcer ships cut through the sky, releasing scanning drones. Lila, Nova said urgently, you must hide or escape now. She clenched her fists. Where can I go? South, the AI replied. There's an old launch port 5 kilometers from your position. Lila looked down at Keo, who nodded faintly. Go, he whispered. They stumbled through the snow again. The light from above flashed across the plains, searching for movement. Lila ran as fast as she could, her lungs burning from the cold. She didn't look back, even as explosions lit up the horizon, but somewhere deep in the storm, Keo's bracelet pulsed again, stronger this time, and far above, in the dark silence of space, another ship answered the signal. Not galactic, not human. Something older, something hidden. The stars themselves seemed to awaken, their light bending slightly. As if listening, Lila didn't know it yet, but by saving one freezing alien child, she had sent a message across the galaxy, a message that no law, no patrol, no empire could silence. And as the wind carried the echo of engines through the frozen air, the universe had just taken notice of a 6-year-old human girl, and the balance of the stars had begun to shift. The cold wind screamed across the endless white plains as the first enforcer ship descended, its engines burned through the snow, turning it to mist. Lila held Keo's hand tightly, their footprints disappearing behind them. The air was filled with the echo of metal wings and deep, thunder-like roars. Every sound reminded her of danger, but she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Nova's voice whispered through her ear implant. Lila, 3 enforcer units have landed near your location. Are they scanning? She gasped, trying to catch her breath. Yes, the AI said. They're tracking the bracelet's energy signature. Lila looked at Kyo's glowing wrist, her heart pounding. Can you stop the signal? She asked. Kyo blinked weakly. Not. Stop. Old tech. Bonded. Then we'll have to outrun them, she said, determination burning in her small voice. They reached the shadow of an old supply base, its walls half collapsed and covered in frost. Inside, broken cargo pods lay scattered like bones. Lila pushed open a door, leading Kyo inside. The air smelled of rust and frozen oil. This way, she whispered, pulling him toward a control room. She needed to think, to plan. Nova scanned the area silently, its hologram flickering faintly on her wrist. There's an emergency exit at the back, it said, but it leads to open terrain. Any other way? She asked. Underground tunnels. Damaged but possible, Nova replied. Lila nodded. Then that's where we're going. She guided Kyo down a narrow hallway, the floor creaking under their weight. Behind them, faint red lights glowed through the broken windows. Patrol drones closing in, the sound of heavy boots echoed outside. Lila, Nova warned. They've entered the base. Her pulse quickened. Hide, she whispered, pulling Kyo behind a metal crate. Through a crack, she saw the enforcers. Tall, armored figures, their visors glowing white. They moved like machines, scanning every corner with cold precision. Signal is close, one of them said, his voice metallic. Orders? Another asked. Capture the life form, eliminate interference, the leader replied. Lila's breath caught. She pressed her palm over her mouth to keep silent. Her eyes flicked to Kyo, who was trembling, his breathing shallow again. Then the sound of a crack. Her knee brushed against a loose piece of metal. It clanged loudly, echoing through the corridor. The enforcers turned instantly. There, one shouted. Lila grabbed Kyo's hand and ran. Go, 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 she whispered, her voice breaking with fear. The hallway exploded with light as energy bolts hit the walls. Sparks flew past them, burning the air. Lila ducked, pulling Kyo behind her. The tunnel ahead opened into darkness. The old mining shafts. Without hesitation, she jumped down the ladder, her small boots slipping on the ice. Kyo followed, his bracelet flashing wildly. Above them, the enforcers shouted commands. Unit 2, seal the exits. Unit 3, pursue underground. Their metal footsteps rang above like thunder. Lila landed hard, her knees scraping against the cold floor. She didn't feel the pain, only the fear. She pulled Kyo deeper into the tunnels, the air growing colder and darker. Nova's voice guided her through the darkness. Left turn, 20 meters, it said softly. There's an old transport rail. She followed the faint glow from her wrist hologram. Kyo stumbled, his breathing growing slower. Hold on, she whispered. We're almost there. Finally, they reached a large chamber, an ancient underground hangar. In the center stood a half-buried Earth shuttle. Rusted but intact, Lila's eyes widened. This could work. Nova scanned the ship quickly. Engines non-functional, but internal systems are 40% operational. That's enough, Lila said, climbing up the ladder. She pulled Kyo inside, laying him near the control panel. The old screens flickered weakly when she pressed the main switch. Lights buzzed to life one by one. It wasn't much, but it was hope. She connected the fusion battery she had repaired earlier to the shuttle's power core. The engines groaned like sleeping beasts. Outside, she heard the metallic clang of footsteps approaching. Nova warned. They've found the tunnel entrance. Lila clenched her jaw. Then we have no time. She ran to the pilot seat, flipping switches the way she had seen in her mother's old manuals. The shuttle shook slightly, its systems humming. Kyo opened his eyes weakly. Go, he whispered. I'm trying, she said, her voice shaking. A sudden blast shook the ground. The enforcers had entered the hangar. Energy bolts struck the walls, melting metal. Lila screamed, pressing the ignition. The old engines coughed, then roared to life. Dust and snow swirled around the shuttle. The enforcers shouted, "Stop them!" But before they could reach her, the ship's thrusters ignited. A blast of heat knocked them back as the shuttle lifted from the ground. It rose through the tunnel, breaking through the frozen ceiling into the stormy sky. Lila looked down, tears streaming from her eyes. Below, the enforcers fired energy blasts that barely missed the ship. Nova's systems flickered. Damage level minor. Keo coughed weakly, his voice barely a whisper. "Safe?" Lila nodded. For now. But as she turned to the radar screen, her heart dropped. 3 enforcer ships had already taken off, chasing them through the clouds. "They're coming," she whispered. Nova's voice was calm but grim. "Then prepare, Lila. The chase has begun." The old shuttle trembled as it broke through the thick clouds. Flames trailed behind the engines, and every metal plate rattled from pressure. Lila gripped the control stick tightly, her small hands trembling. Her eyes were wide with fear and wonder as she saw the stars shining above the storm. For a moment, the galaxy looked peaceful, endless and quiet, but peace never lasted long, not for her. "Lila," Nova's voice echoed through the cockpit. 3 enforcer ships are in pursuit." She turned her head, watching the radar screen flash red. "They're fast," she whispered. "Too fast." "Yes," Nova replied calmly. "They have plasma engines. We have rust." Lila pressed buttons she barely understood. The ship jerked violently, the alarms blaring. "I don't care," she muttered. "We just have to keep flying." Behind her, Keo lay strapped to a seat, his eyes half closed. The artificial lung hissed quietly, keeping him alive. Outside the small window, bright trails of light appeared. Laser fire. The enforcers were close, their ships slicing through the sky like silver knives. Each shot passed dangerously near the shuttle. "Shields at 30%, Nova warned, Lila shouted. "We don't even have shields." "Correct," Nova said flatly. "I was trying to make you feel better." Despite the chaos, Lila almost laughed, a tear slipping down her cheek. The first blast hit the tail, sending sparks across the cabin. The shuttle spun out of control. Dropping toward the cloud layer, Lila screamed, gripping the control stick with all her strength. "Come on, old girl," she cried. "Don't give up on me now." Nova recalibrated systems automatically. "Stabilizing thrusters," it said. "Brace for turbulence." The shuttle steadied itself barely above the storm, lightning flashing around them. The twin suns reflected off the ice clouds, painting the world below in fire and gold. Keo stirred weakly, his voice trembling. "They still chasing?" Lila nodded, eyes fixed ahead. "Yes, but I have an idea." "What idea?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "A crazy one." She pushed a lever forward, activating the atmospheric dive sequence. Nova's sensors flashed red, warning. "The shuttle cannot survive another re-entry." "Then we'll make it survive," she said firmly. The shuttle dropped back toward the planet, flames roaring against the hull. The enforcers followed, their sleek ships diving in formation. Lightning cracked through the storm, turning the sky into chaos. Lila's hair flew across her face as the cockpit shook violently. Nova's voice broke up in static. "Hull temperature exceeding safe limit," Lila shouted. "Define safe!" "Alive," Nova replied dryly. "Then keep us that way," she said through gritted teeth. One of the enforcer ships fired again. The blast hitting the wing, metal tore apart, and the shuttle spun sideways. Lila fought the controls, her hands slipping on the levers. She glanced back. Keo had fallen unconscious again. His bracelet glowed brighter than before. Pulsing with strange energy, Nova noticed it too. "Lila, energy readings from the alien child are increasing." "What does that mean?" "I do not know," Nova admitted. "But it's not human." The next moment, the shuttle filled with light. Keo's small body glowed like molten silver. Electric lines of energy spread from his bracelet through the ship's systems. The flickering lights became steady. The engines roared louder than ever. Nova's voice rose. "Power levels at 120%, this is impossible." Lila stared in awe. "He's helping us," Keo's voice was faint but clear. "Go." "Fast," she smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. Hold on tight. The shuttle shot forward like a comet. Bursting through the storm clouds, the enforcer ship struggled to keep up. Their scanners blinded by the sudden energy surge. Plasma trails flared behind them as they tried to lock target. But the old shuttle was faster now, powered by something beyond human technology. The sky turned red and gold, lightning flashing like war drums. It looked like the heavens were burning. The sky of fire, the place where legends were born. Altitude increasing, Nova announced. You're almost beyond their range. Lila grinned, exhausted but determined. Almost doesn't count. The enforcers fired one last barrage. Explosions shook the shuttle, tearing through the lower deck. Alarms screamed, sparks flying everywhere. Nova said urgently, "Damage critical. Engines failing." Lila's hands trembled. "We can't stop now." Then a voice crackled through the radio. Her mother's voice. "Lila, do you hear me?" Her eyes widened. "Mom?" "I've intercepted their signal," her mother said. "They're tracking you by your heat trail. Go higher, I'll cover you." "No, Mom, don't." But before she could finish, the radar flashed. Another ship appeared below. Her mother's transport rising fast, weapons glowing bright. "She's coming to fight them," Lila whispered, tears in her eyes. "Run." "My little star," her mother's voice said softly through static. Then the line went silent. Outside, an explosion lit up the clouds. Her mother's ship colliding with an enforcer cruiser. Fire bloomed across the sky, turning night into day. Lila screamed, her voice breaking, "Mom." But there was no reply, only the endless echo of thunder. The shuttle climbed higher, through the flames and smoke. Keo opened his eyes, weak but steady. He looked at her and said quietly, "She saved us." Lila nodded, tears falling. "Yes, she did." Nova's voice softened. "Lila." Orbit reached, the clouds cleared, revealing the stars. Calm, endless, eternal. But behind them, the largest enforcer ship emerged, blocking their path. Its shadow stretched across the stars like a dark sun. Lila's fingers tightened on the controls. "Then we finish this," she whispered, her voice trembling but brave. The child who defied the galaxy was not done yet. The stars stretched endlessly before them, calm and bright. But in the middle of that beautiful silence stood a monster of metal, the Galactic Enforcer cruiser. Its black hull shimmered with energy, lights crawling across its surface like veins of fire. It was bigger than a city, older than most human nations, and now it blocked the path of a 6-year-old girl. Lila's small hands shook on the shuttle controls. The old ship drifted slowly, its engines weak. Beside her, Keo sat quietly, his silver eyes glowing softly. His artificial lung hissed in rhythm. "Still working, still alive," Nova's voice whispered. "Lila, the cruiser is powering its main cannon." She swallowed hard. "Can we run?" "Not fast enough," Nova said sadly. "They will fire within minutes." The radio crackled, a deep voice filling the cabin. "This is Commander Rael of the Galactic Enforcers," it said. Cold and emotionless. "You are harboring a restricted life form. Surrender now and you may be spared." Lila glared at the communicator, anger replacing fear. She pressed the transmission button, her voice trembling but brave. "This life form has a name," she said. "His name is Keo, and I won't let you take him." There was silence on the other end for a moment, then a cruel laugh. "A human child defying galactic law?" Raoul said mockingly. "How amusing," Nova whispered urgently. "Lila." "They are charging weapons," Lila looked at Keo. "If they want to end this, they'll have to listen first." She leaned toward the control panel and pressed the broadcast override. The ship's damaged comm system hummed, connecting to the galactic network. Now every nearby colony, every patrol ship, every listening station could hear her voice. "This is Lila," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm only 6 years old and I broke your law." Her words echoed through the comm waves. "Reaching across the stars, I saved someone you call forbidden, someone you would rather see die in the cold." She looked at Keo, her eyes full of tears. "But he's just a kid, like me." The broadcast spread faster than any of the enforcers expected. Millions of viewers across the galaxy stopped what they were doing to listen. Aliens, humans, traitors, soldiers. Everyone heard the trembling voice of a child. The enforcer commander shouted over the channel, "Cut that transmission!" But it was too late. Nova had locked the signal, amplifying it through every available frequency. Lila continued, her voice breaking with emotion. "If saving a life is a crime, then your laws are broken. I'm not strong. I'm not brave like the heroes you talk about. But I couldn't watch someone die just because of rules. Her small hands clenched the armrest. If that makes me a criminal, then I'll be the kind of criminal who saves lives. Kyo touched her hand gently, his silver glow spreading faintly into her skin. Nova's sensors detected it. Lila, his energy output is increasing again. What's happening? She asked. Kyo's voice was soft, filled with light. You gave me life. Now I give it back. Before she could stop him, the ship began to shine. The panels glowed from the inside, every wire and circuit filling with silver light. Outside, the Enforcer cruiser aimed its cannon, a sphere of pure energy forming at its center. Lila, Nova said quickly, it's going to fire. The next second, the cannon exploded with power, a beam of light surging toward them. But the shuttle didn't move. It didn't burn, it didn't break. Instead, Kyo's energy wrapped around them like a shield, a sphere of living light, silver. Bright and silent, the energy beam struck it, splitting apart like water against stone. The entire galaxy seemed to pause for a heartbeat. Then the light from the shuttle expanded outward. Reaching the cruiser, every system inside the Enforcer ship flickered. Every weapon went dark. Lila looked at Kyo in awe. What are you doing? He smiled weakly, showing them what life means. Through the light, the image of Kyo appeared on every galactic screen, glowing. Peaceful, alive, he spoke, his voice soft but strong. The human child broke your law, but she did what your hearts forgot. She cared. Every corner of the galaxy heard it. Billions watched in silence. The Galactic Council themselves stopped their meetings, frozen by the power of truth from a dying alien child. When the light faded, the Enforcer cruiser was silent. No weapons, no fire, no hate, only the quiet hum of disabled engines. Lila held Kyo's hand, tears streaming down her face. Stay with me, she whispered. Kyo smiled faintly, his glow dimming. Don't cry. Light never dies. His bracelet blinked one last time, then faded completely. Lila sobbed quietly, holding him close. Even Nova's voice trembled. Lila. His heartbeat is gone. The Galactic Council sent orders to stand down. No one dared to fire again. The entire galaxy had seen what a 6-year-old human had done. She broke the oldest law not out of rebellion, but out of love. And that love had silenced an empire days later. The news spread across every system. The law that forbade saving restricted species was suspended for review. Lila's name became a symbol on her home planet. They built a monument, 2 small figures holding hands under a frozen sky. The statue glowed softly at night, silver and blue, like hope itself. Years passed, but stories of Lila, the lawbreaker of light, traveled beyond the colonies. Pilots whispered her name before takeoff. Soldiers carried her symbol on their armor. She had done what no army, no council, no leader could. She reminded the galaxy what it meant to be human, because sometimes the smallest human heart could shine brighter than the stars themselves.